I believe that he and Monica had a real love affair. I don't believe that he was just using her. My name is John Gartner. I'm a psychologist. I teach part-time at Johns Hopkins, and I'm the author of In Search of Bill Clinton, a psychological biography. People who have a hypomanic temperament, as I think Bill Clinton does, have a tremendous amount of energy, creativity. They don't need much sleep. They're very charismatic, but they're also way outside the box. And that can be good in terms of their creativity, but they also have difficulty containing their impulses. So Bill Clinton he eats too much, he blows up too much, has reckless sex, he says things he shouldn't say, but he's also a change agent in a lot of ways. So he makes things happen, but not always the right things. When he was 8 years old, his parents were basically partiers. I mean, they were out drinking and carousing, and they weren't church people. And when he was 8 years old, he started walking to church by himself. He would put on a tie, walk a mile carrying a big, heavy Bible. And the pastor said every time he opened the doors, Bill Clinton was literally sitting on the steps waiting for the doors to open. So I think he's always been a seeker. He's always been someone who's sort of seeking this kind of higher purpose. All these 80-year-old people telling me, oh, well, Virginia Clinton, she had so many affairs. Well, she had an affair with this one, she had an affair with that one. So that one sort of surprised me to find out that, in fact, his promiscuity, he comes by it rightfully, that she was somewhat of a hypomanic temperament, and she was basically modeling a lot of serial adultery for him. I guess the other thing that was surprising is I found out that the person who's supposed to be his biological father may not be his biological father. There's always been these rumors around Bill Clinton that Bill Blythe was not actually his father. And it's been written about in other biographies, but mostly as rumors. And I went to Hope and actually started talking to people. And as it turns out, this is so funny because I grew up in New York City. I don't know the psychology of small towns, but there are secrets in small towns that everybody knows about that nobody outside the town knows about. Well, within Hope, Arkansas, it's kind of a known, it's believed to be a known open secret that Bill Clinton's illegitimate. I think the other thing that was surprising is I didn't realize how incredibly smart Bill Clinton really is. We all know he is smart, but he actually, in that southern kind of aw shucks kind of way, actually understates how smart he is. You know, some people try to show they're the smartest people in the room, and actually Bill Clinton often is the smartest person in the room and doesn't always display it. But people would talk about how he has total recall, how he reads everything, synthesizes everything, and has total recall for people. That's the thing. Every single person I met said, I got to tell you this story. Bill Clinton met some friend of mine, 5 years ago, and he ran into him in the supermarket and said, Joe, how you doing? How's your dog Blimpie? You know, when Woodward wrote a book about the Clinton White House called The Agenda, he talked about how chaotic the Clinton administration was. And that's kind of what we saw, this chaos, all these people arguing and disagreeing and leaking. But the people who I talked to who were actually part of those negotiations around the budget that Woodward wrote about in The Agenda said it was an exciting process, it was creative, it was enlivening. It's true the meetings went on all night and they were food deprived and they were exhausted, they were passing out, but they described it as being one of the most vital times in their life, that was very creative, and they really went through the federal budget line by line and really understood it, mastered it. And so that kind of, what looks from the outside like a kind of chaotic process, actually on the inside was a creative process. And I think bringing that to government, hypomanic creativity, which is something I know a lot about, bringing that to government was really kind of an amazing sort of happening. The last time I think we saw something like this was basically Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt was the last kind of hypomanic genius president that we had who read all night and, just opposed everyone with his own zany, brilliant ideas. And this is really an unusual sort of person to have in the presidency. Right now, the economy. We're in an economic crisis. We did have a period of prosperity under Clinton. It wasn't just an accident. I mean, Alan Greenspan, in his book about the economy, can't say enough about what Bill Clinton did for the economy because he's a believer in balanced budgets. And Bill Clinton did something very atypical. I mean, he was a Democrat who decided to do something very fiscally conservative and balance the budget. And he did it, and it had a tremendous impact on the economy. And every economic figure, the number that was supposed to go up went up, and every number that was supposed to go down went down. Then Bush came in, record deficits, the tax cuts didn't work, we're in the toilet, and I think what we need to do is go back to some of those economic policies. First of all, I think some of the proof is in the pudding. I think looking at what he accomplished, I talked about peace and prosperity. He was an amazing peacemaker. Northern Ireland, talk about a quagmire. He actually convinced these people to make peace. I mean, there's a moment in the town square in Belfast where he makes a speech that brings 70,000 people in the town square, Catholics and Protestants, for the first time ever in one place, and they start spontaneously singing Silent Night in response to his speech. I mean, he elevated the rhetoric to that level where he got them, you know, and that's inspirational. And he did try to use it for good. Yes, okay, he had affairs, but even there, by the way, I just do want to say one thing about the relationship with Monica that I think a lot of people don't appreciate, and I think it is important in evaluating his character. I believe that he and Monica had a real love affair. I don't believe that he was just using her. And there's several things that support that. First of all, she wrote a memoir about it, and he would be in tears sometimes when he was separated from her. For 12 months, they had no sexual contact at all. He called her 3 times a week. And ironically, he was very conflicted about it because he does love Hillary. And the first time he actually allowed himself to have an orgasm with her was after the relationship had been going on for 14 months and she was wearing a Blue Gap dress. That was the Blue Gap dress. That was the incident. So this was a real relationship. And what's interesting is that's actually pretty typical of the way Bill Clinton has affairs. So I've spoken to other women who've had affairs with him, and they all are still in love with him. And what's interesting is his chief of staff, Betsy Wright, said, because he told Monica he had hundreds of affairs, and his chief of staff, Betsy Wright, who knows a lot about his affairs, said, well, look, all these right-wing operatives came to Arkansas trying to dig up the dirt on Bill Clinton, and none of them got anything except for Gennifer Flowers. So either he didn't have the affairs, or all the women he had affairs with are still loyal to him. Now, obviously he had the affairs, so it means that they are still loyal to him. It means that he's not just a cad. He really forms these meaningful love connections, but he's capable and wired such that he does it with more than one person, which is different than just being, you know, a cad who uses people and discards them and has contempt for them, which is the way he's been portrayed, and I don't think that's fair.